So I'll call the meeting to order. Just a background again, I think most people are familiar. This is not a normal meeting, it's a study session. So about the only official thing we do is go for introductions, and at the very end, I think the only motion we allow is for adjournment. With that, if there are any public people here, we don't have public input today, but they're certainly welcome to be here tonight. So with that, we'll start with introductions. We'll start Leslie and just go around the table and in the back row.
Yes, thank you. So, Leslie Yetka, Natural Resources Manager in Public Works.
Kelly O'Day, Recreation Director.
Mike Funk, City Manager.
Miranda Dahman, Assistant City Manager.
Katie Samarsky, Park Board.
Caleb Schultz, Park Board.
Corey Vitale, Park Board.
Jennifer Christie, Park Board.
Ann Hanley, Park Board.
Brad Lerman, Park Board.
Dave Ingraham, Park Board.
Brad Wiersum, Mayor.
Rebecca Shack, Councilmember Ward 2.
Oliver Maley, Ward 3.
Deb Calvert, At-Large, Seat A.
Kimberly Wilburn, At-Large B.
Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1.
Darren Ellingson, Public Works. Street and Park Operations Manager.
Matt Kumka, Park and Trail Project Manager.
Sarah Westy, Assistant Recreation Director.
Sarissa Falk, Senior Management Coordinator.
Will Manchester, Public Works Director.
Nate Thornton, Citizen.
Evan Almeline, Citizen.
Thanks, Will. We have about 30 minutes before we move off for our tour. We have two business items, starting with the Big Willow Park Master Plan. Is that Leslie or Matt?
That is Matt.
Thank you. Good evening, Park Board, Council. So this will be a dual effort here with Leslie advancing the slides, but I'd like to keep it short and sweet to some degree. So we are kicking off the master planning process for Big Willow Park. Big Willow is one of our community parks. It's large and substantial. It's out the window from where we work over at Public Works, so it's an exciting one to be taking on. And we will be going out there this evening as part of the tour to lay eyes on it. So a little bit of a reminder of the background. Through the post-plan process, the goal of these master plans is to identify potential park improvements based on what we're hearing from the community, those community groups that use these particular parks. We want to prioritize what investments we want to make to modernize the park facilities, to make them more accessible, to improve the natural resources, the general goals of and mission of our park improvement plan. Big Willow was just recently begun. We are working with Bolton and Mank engineers to develop a public engagement plan. They recently performed a wholesale conditions analysis, primarily of the recreation side of the park. We are looking to collect feedback through an outreach and engagement process over the next few weeks, months or so, to understand how people use the city and what potential improvements they would be interested in seeing. So some of the key features, as you'll see this evening, there is a very substantial legacy baseball, softball, and soccer complex adjacent to the Public Works Very highly used, a variety of ball organizations out there. There's men and women's league, there's softball casual league, there's little leaguers, there's a lot of Hopkins leagues that play on these fields. There are regional attraction style tournaments where there's Legion age teams that come through. A lot of out-of-towners come into this park to watch those games. So it's really important from a active recreation standpoint, just how long these fields have been around and how much of a legacy they are as a part of the community and the side of town. There is an extensive trail network, footpath network through the native plant community that's out there. There's been a substantial amount of volunteer restoration and contractor and staff restoration in that parks for decades at this point. It's really a beautiful creek corridor through there. It's the major park that highlights the Minnehaha Creek. There's a beautiful bridge that needs some love in that park. But otherwise, it's a spectacular view of the park, of the creek, and really its most beautiful form. There are numerous park entry points and parking opportunities throughout the park, which sort of represent both the opportunity and a constraint to some degree. We do have adjacency to regional trails, so a regional trail coming down Plymouth Avenue, and then the regional trail just south of Minnetonka Boulevard, so there's adjacency to those key features. We recently created the restoration and maintenance plan for Big Willow. This is looking at the target plant communities. How would we prioritize different strategies to perform that improvement? Are we hiring contractors? Are we leveraging our robust volunteer community or our staff doing the work? That sort of lays out that process. This master plan will be beholden to the decisions that we've made in that restoration maintenance plan, making sure that those restoration goals are sort of driving the decision making. Natural resources work is being contracted currently, so we have a wonderful selection of local contractors to continue the work that's been ongoing in the park, removing buckthorn, installing native seed mixes, all that work that comes with our restoration and maintenance planning. And then, again, we have this robust group of volunteers. We're getting into that buckthorn cutting season, so sharpen your shears, everybody. It's time to get out there. So again, high-level look at Big Willow Park. You can see what they call the ball pinwheel on the east side of the park. That's where sort of a central hub of concessions and viewing areas for the ball fields. We have one full-size field, a Legion-style field in the northeast corner. That's the largest of the fields there. The others are Little Leaguer fields adjacent to that one. And then those two closest to the railroad through the park are essentially softball and adult league fields. Moving to the west, there's a large wetland, as most of our parks have large wetlands in them. And then a series of parcels that the city have acquired over the last few decades that used to be homes along the creek there, and through significant effort of the city leadership, we've acquired and expanded the park over recent decades. I'd also like to note that there's a very key business district just west of here, Dairy Queen and Station Pizza, among others, just west of here. So thinking how this park can serve as an amenity to people visiting those commercial businesses there, and what that connection could look like. Can we make that more generally accessible and more welcoming for people who might be taking their time with their ice cream cone and wanting to take a walk a little bit? So opportunities would include this idea of enhancing the sense of place in the ball fields, making sure that we're doing everything we can in terms of accessibility and general safety, getting from the parking lot to viewing your kids or your grandkids at the ball fields. We want to certainly highlight and improve the natural resources, especially along the creek corridor. There's this concept in landscape ecology that something like a creek corridor is really such a substantial value for the natural resources. So many animals and insects move up and down that creek corridor. So really leveraging how much shoreline essentially we have through this park, and making sure that our restoration maintenance plan is being accomplished and being supported by this master planning goals. There are some odd dead ends in the trail system here, especially when we get to the next slide, that there are some flooding issues that occur in the parks at times. The railroad is certainly somewhat of a significant barrier to some of our loop systems. So can we use this master planning process to create more trail loops, so you're not just heading in and out to some degree when the trail's flooded in some key spots. So what can we do to accomplish more opportunities in terms of loops throughout the park? As I mentioned, there are some turf grass parcels that were home sites on the south side of the creek. So what can we do with those? What community amenities are we potentially missing out on that would make sense in those parcels? And then general connectivity to the business district just west along Minnetonka Boulevard through here. So constraints include the railroad corridor. So it is above grade essentially. It's a big human-made infrastructure piece. The trains still run through that area. There are some significant barriers. There's a choke point where the trail can only get under a fairly low bridge under the railroad there. So that'll offer some challenges in terms of what the trail system can do through there. We're noodling with the idea of some additional boardwalk, which was one of the goals in the post plan, to accomplish some more trail loop systems through there. So you could essentially walk loops on either the north side or the south side of the railroad overpass. There are large wetland complexes. This limits our availability for trails, and it somewhat limits our ability to do natural resources restoration, because wetlands are very challenging to do full-scale restoration. We tend to focus on the upland areas, so there are some limitations in terms of the wetlands. And there are, what we've heard and what we understand from looking out the windows is there are significant demands on the parking at the ball fields at times. There are big tournaments that occur there. Those lots fill. We have to put signs asking people to stay off our grass, which sometimes doesn't get listened to. So there are certain challenges there. What we can do about it, we're not quite sure yet, but we want to make sure that we're hearing from the community and trying to upgrade the facility as much as possible when it comes to the parking needs. So outreach engagement is just being planned at this point. Throughout the fall and into the winter, we are going to be setting up and pushing out the Minnetonka Matters website. That'll have a timeline. That'll have an opportunity for residents to sign up for updates. It'll also at some point have a survey. How are you using the park? How often? How far do you come to get to the park? Are you a resident of Minnetonka? Those sort of questions. We are going to be tabling in the park during key tournaments. We're sort of figuring out the best schedule to get as many eyes on our QR codes that direct people to Minnetonka Matters. So we're getting as much survey results as we possibly can to help make these decisions. We are going to be having open house events, potentially at local businesses as well as other facilities in the city. We might even be ending up having one here or having one at local churches. We're still determining where it could make sense to have some of those. We're going to do as much engagement with the surrounding residents. There are significant community groups, both the active rec groups and then the natural resources facing community groups, so engaging with them. There's quite a bit of underrepresented groups in our outreach process that we're finding. We're working closely with our DEI folks to make sure that we're reaching out specifically to what I personally feel have been underrepresented in some of these outreach engagement opportunities in the past, and making sure that those voices are brought to the table as much as possible. There are, as I mentioned, lots of sports organizations throughout there, and they all have their little boards and decision-making folks, so making sure that we're engaging with them and making sure they have plenty of opportunity to provide feedback early and often throughout this process. So draft plan development is into the winter at this year. We want to use this fall while we still have good daylight and folks out there on the fields, making sure we're using that for that outreach. Then the draft plan will start to be developed later in the fall into the winter, and that'll be put up on the Minnetonka Matters site to solicit feedback from the residents of the city. And then final plan review and adoption would be in that February-March frame, when we can hear back from leaders in the city, make adjustments as necessary, see what we're hearing from the community in terms of response to that draft plan and adjusting where necessary. But this is a really sort of exciting park to be doing this master planning on, because it's active rec, it's natural resources, it's got the creek corridor in it. It sort of features a lot of the best characteristics of our park systems. So it gives us a chance to sort of tackle a bunch of processes, make sure we're doing things right. We're reaching out to the community in all the right ways and getting that feedback we need to help make the smartest decisions when it comes to using our resources appropriately and investing in our park system in the future in all the right ways. So I think that's it. Questions or feedback for me? Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. One of the items that I had that you didn't address was that the grade going up to the bridge is very steep. I'm in this park every day. I live near the Public Works, and in the wintertime, people cannot, an able body cannot get up that hill. It's almost borderline hazard. I make it a challenge.
not
to try to.
borderline.
I try to get it. I make a challenge that I can do it, but just want to make sure that that's also something that's been identified.
Absolutely. So that's exactly the sort of input from park users that we're looking for in this process. We're going to do sort of a mapping exercise where people can drop pins about specific concerns in the park, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot of pins in that spot. I know it will.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rebecca.
Thanks, Dave. One thing that is conspicuously absent, I think, from kind of the opportunities, and I think it would be a miss to not consider opportunities for dog amenities, considering, we're really looking at master planning as that opportunity.
Yep.
So is that something that's going to happen as a part of this?
Absolutely. So the community work group identified, it's actually not part of Big Willow, but it's just to the west of it. It's called Creek Landing.
You want to do the map?
Mills Landing.
With the
So-
gazebo, right?
No, not even that far. So just to the west, yes, thank you, that parcel there. So there is a private residence in between Big Willow and the particular parcel, but the community work group did identify that particular area for a acre-plus opportunity for an urban-style dog park. There is parking right there. It's relatively level. It's, from a natural resources perspective, very degraded in terms of buckthorn. So we're going to make it clear throughout this process that a community work group did identify this spot. Community, give us your feedback, and then we'll be coming back with what we hear and making the case.
And I was going to ask today, and I ran out of time, but I don't know where we're at on that missing parcel. I don't even want to know. But the other piece that I would consider is, do we then, as a part of this master planning and future planning, make that cohesively part of Big Willow, so it's kind of one, or how do we treat those missing pieces?
Yep. I think that would be similar to the way we talked about the Red Barn site at Purgatory, where we're constantly sort of piecing our parks together with land acquisition. So if that was to happen out of this process, ideally we'd be able to make that recommendation, expand the border, change the border of Big Willow or whatever park in the future to include those parcels.
Right.
Other questions?
Dave, I've got. The question I've got, I appreciate you noting about, connection to the commercial area in Minnetonka Mills, because I think that is a nice opportunity, particularly given the answer to the previous question with the potential for a dog park facility there. And I think I remember, walking along that after I blew the tire out of my bike and did not have a patch kit. I was walking, and I was walking back by Mike's house, and I managed to get him to give me a ride home.
You walked past mine.
Well, not by his house. He was leaving, and I flagged him down, and he waved to me and drove by, and I called him and said, "Hey, you have 10 minutes? I really need a ride." But anyway, so I was walking on, from basically Big Willow west on Minnetonka Boulevard, and and there is pretty much of a trail there, but is there opportunity to enhance that and really kind of make that a corridor for connection? Because I think that would really be a valuable enhancement to that whole area.
Absolutely. So our park planning folks that we're working with and discussions internally, it's not just about what's inside the park, it's what the borders of the park look like. It's how are we getting people off those regional trails just to the south here? How are we getting welcomed into the park? What's that streetscape like in front of the park that gets people safely across those intersections to the south and up and down that road where you're not, always sort of glancing over your shoulder, hoping that the car coming isn't looking at their phone.
Right.
Every opportunity we get where a park is intersecting or adjacent to a public roadway, we're looking at that comfort level, what that trail experience is like, what improvements can we potentially make.
Thanks, Matt. Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Chair and Mayor and Council. Just two quick things to Councilmember Shack's question on the acquisition, and perhaps even for the park board, just a little bit of revisionist history here. The council did approve the purchase of a parcel, and then if someone who's got the mouse can maybe reflect that up there.
That's right.
As Matt discussed, the city owns, right to the left of the mouse, the city owns property where there's a parking lot. And then we have the big willow that you see outlined. It's about a 2-acre parcel of property there that the city is looking to acquire. Our closing is in the next 3 weeks, so we've had some challenges with getting some schedules aligned, but I think we're there now. So we anticipate closure. We think in the next 3 weeks, hopefully that's coming. So that's just one item. And the second is to make sure my services are available for all of you. If anyone is out with a busted tire, I'll be gladly to help pick you up, and other duties is assigned, but I'm here to help anybody.
Cell number?
Yeah, well, not everybody has Mike in their contacts, and I recommend you do that.
I just have one quick question. I really like what you described, particularly the idea of looping. It's like 2 parks.
Yeah.
I'm talking about public outreach. I have a feeling that there's a whole group that never goes west of the wetlands, and the whole group never goes to the athletic fields. When you do the outreach, it's almost like you're going to have 2 separate things. You're plugged into that. Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be the case moving forward, where we have active rec and then local trail users. So we're customizing our surveys in ways that we're getting useful feedback from those particular user groups.
Great.
It is all Big Willow, but there are certainly different experiences in the
Yeah.
park. So yes, that's
Great
great.
park. Thanks. Yeah, yes, Ann.
There are ball fields on the south side of Minnetonka Boulevard. Are those owned by the city? Or I've never been clear who owns those. And
They are city park. That's Gilliam's Fields. It's a separate park, and they're primarily just those ball fields. That is not currently on the master plan schedule at this point because they are fairly straightforward and just active rec ball fields.
okay, thank you.
More questions? Thanks, Matt. We'll go to the park project updates.
Yes, thank you, Chair Graham and Park Board and Council. We have a couple of updates to share, and I'll just pull them up here. Matt is actually going to cover many of these, and then I will hit on the last one, and then I'll give you a little bit of information on the upcoming tour as well.
Thank you. Good evening, Park Board. Related to the work that we're doing at Big Willow, we are it's not quite a master plan, but we are doing planning at Glen Lake Park, and this is a location that was identified in a feasibility study for a potential skateboard park a couple years ago now. So we are working with Damon Farber Landscape Architects to begin to lay out the process to do this planning effort. You'll also be reminded that it was the Glen Lake Activity Center was identified as potential to be removed by I forget the name of the study at this point, the facilities study a couple years ago now. So the goal would be to tear that building down and look at options to develop a park on that corner, a significant business corner, very high visibility corner, with a skateboard park being one of the key features. So again, high level process at this point, relatively small contract with Damon Farber to get a sense of what the possibilities could look like up in a park like this, and to perform some of that outreach and engagement. There is a very again, legacy ball organization at the Mighty Mites Field, the Optimus Fields there. So coordinating with them, coordinating with other community users. There's a softball field to the east side. There's Christmas tree sales in the lot down there. So trying to get a sense of what park facilities, what are we missing in the city, and would this be a location to implement some of those? So high level at this point, sort of just getting started on that outreach engagement, but I can talk about it more when we get out there. Yes, more me. Opus area. So a lot happening in Opus area with the light rail coming in just a few years now, potentially. I saw them testing it the other day when I was over at Pizza Luce. So before you know it, there'll be a train coming through Minnetonka. So we are looking at the trail network that has been in Opus for decades at this point, and making sure that it is easy to navigate, that it's safe in terms of lighting. So we are performing planning for wayfinding and lighting through the Opus Trail network. So we are sort of getting our ducks in a row to do that electrical design work, to understand what's exactly needed in terms of lighting throughout that trail system. And we do have concepts in place for wayfinding through the Opus area. So what wayfinding is needed in terms of pointing to the light rail or pointing to Shady Oak, or where are we trying to get people. It is quite labyrinth-like when you're riding around on those trail networks, so we need a very clear wayfinding strategy to get folks around and make it generally more usable through that area. So we're kicking off that process. Also, we are still planning the Opus Park. There is a property owner just east of the light rail stop there. We're in talks with them about the city owning a portion of their property there. So what that is going to take is a little nebulous at this point, but it's still our goal to have concepts for an Opus Park before too long here, working with that developer in the area. Ideally, we'd have an understanding of what was going to happen prior to the train opening, but that's not looking too good at this point, unfortunately. But another very significant park coming down the line. And finally, Ridgedale wayfinding. So regional trails around the Ridgedale Mall. With the Ridgedale Commons Park in place now, those trails are seeing a lot of activity. Three Rivers Park is about to do some upgrades to their regional trail on the south side of the park there. So years ago, it was identified that there is a need for some wayfinding around that mall area to get people to and from local businesses, to the Hennepin County Library and that government center there. So we will be designing some wayfinding along that key multimodal trail around the mall there, making sure we can get people safely around those busy areas.
As well as connecting to Meadow Park, perhaps, and
Pointing to all the wonderful amenities we have in the city.
And I'll take the last one. So if you recall, in 2021, the city adopted the Natural Resources Master Plan. And in that plan, we identified a series of parks where we intended to develop what we call habitat restoration and maintenance plans. So these are really park-specific plans, just focused on habitat restoration. We have a target plant community that we know we're trying to restore to. It basically outlines the general strategies that we want to use for staff and consultants. And these plans are brought to the park board for review. We don't really like to say adoption, only because these plans change continually. We use what's called adaptive management strategies. So it's hard to really say in a plan and be really prescriptive. So we want to make sure that we're constantly reviewing our plan and updating our plan as needed. So in this CIP, Capital Improvement Program, we have identified parks, and we have a list of parks we're working through. And the next 4 parks are Civic Center, Victoria Evergreen, Kinsel, and Minnetonka Mills Park, which is west of the Dairy Queen area and Station Pizza. And so those will be coming to the park board probably later this year, and the intent is that we can get those completed so we can start getting the contracts in place to actually do the work, which ideally will start in the winter when the ground is frozen. So that's that. So those are what we have for updates.
Any questions? Yeah. Councilmember Rubin?
So had a conversation with some residents recently that were adamant that Ridgedale Commons was not getting any use, that the people from Amador don't use it, that there's never anyone there. That's interesting. And I tried to say, I don't think that's quite the case, but they were sure. So I'm just wondering, like, do we know how much use Ridgedale Commons is getting? Is it or is it less than we were hoping for? Or just sort of what is that status?
Well, I know with the farmer's market moving out, that certainly has affected the numbers. I don't know that we necessarily track visitor amounts. We would have to review camera footage and do some traffic counts of some sort to try to get a sense if we feel like that information would be useful. Anecdotally, I often see folks there, but that's anecdotally.
I can maybe add on, Councilmember Wilburn. You know, with the farmers market moving, yes, that was, a good chunk of people on Tuesdays, but we have been, trying to program that more often than not. And so we've tried a number of different events out there, programs out there. The general users I'm not sure about, but we definitely have made sure we're trying to actively program that area out there.
Go ahead, Beck.
Thank you for the presentation. It's really helpful. This is more of a comment and an observation. I think Opus is going to be a real challenge because, as you said, Matt, it's a labyrinth. I know people who won't drive into there, let alone go in and use a park there. It's just going to be really difficult. And for residents, they need the messaging that that's a welcoming area. And unlike Big Willow, which is so accessible because of Minnetonka Boulevard, people aren't going to go to Opus. And if we're going to create a park there and spend the time and effort, we need to message very differently on that, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree. Part of the reality is in that Opus area, there's a lot of new housing. There are a lot of apartments and new residents to the city of Minnetonka down there. So we have to make sure that their sense of place is there for them. They know how to get around on that trail network. So not just the folks that have recently moved in and are potentially new owners in Minnetonka and plan on using the light rail at some point, but future residents of the city being able to get through there. Yeah, the wayfinding and navigating through there and the one-way streets, it's a challenge.
Any question?
Yes.
So on the Opus as well, I agree. My mom worked there as a new driver, and it was very frightening. I still did it, but it was a very scary experience driving in there. Any update on the Timberwolves? I had heard at one point that and I kind of watch the news and listen on the side if they're moving forward or have any design plans that the city's reviewed for potential arena moving to Opus.
I haven't seen anything come through the city, but I did see a publicly available list of potential sites, and that was on there. That's as far as I've seen it get.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair. Yes. I've got a comment too on Opus because, clearly Opus is going through a lot of change. And Mike and I today attended a kickoff meeting for talking about improvements to Highway 7 with a coalition of cities. And one of the points that was made in the meeting was that, we're talking about the way Highway 7 is now, but these improvements, chances are none of us will be in the roles we have now, certainly I won't be, when any of these things are implemented. And the issues that we're going to face in 10 to 15 years down the road when these changes take place are significantly different. And I think if I look at Opus based on the experience I've had in the past, the future is going to be dramatically different. I mean, the point on housing is significant, but there will be light rail is going to bring a lot of people there, both in and out. Now, admittedly, light rail has taken its lumps, and it may not be as big as we hope it would be on day one, but that is an amenity that's going to be around for 100 years, and that is going to drive traffic. So the Opus we're talking about it has very little in common with what's there today. This is a very future-oriented thing, and clearly people who live there are going to need amenities. And other than the trail system, there aren't a lot of amenities there. So I think we have to kind of take our blinders off and say, you know what, we really have to be future oriented because we're talking the next 10 to 20 years and 30 years down the road.
I have one, I think it's a comment, and maybe it can get relayed to Julie as well, but there is just like this at Ridgedale, tiny little missing piece of sidewalk in front of US Bank that I've received some comments from neighbors about, because if you are headed to, say, Forked or one of those places that's on the outskirts, you're walking through the lawn in that missing piece of sidewalk. So I anticipate that's been that way because that's probably a potential redevelopment. But I don't know if there's some interim solution to that, but as we're trying to encourage walkability in that area, I think that's a little missing link.
Are you talking about along Plymouth Road? Yeah, so at the Wells Fargo redevelopment, that is planned to get that connected, so you can get from Ridgedale Drive all the way north along Plymouth Road.
Oh,
There you
people
go.
are gonna be real happy
Okay.
about that. Thank you,
yeah.
Darren. Good news. Best news I've heard all day.
Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to mention the same, so thank you, Darren. The other couple things, just going back to Opus real quick. I think first and foremost, Opus Park development is primarily aimed at residents that are living there. The city's been planning for that development for a long time. There are estimated at complete build-out over about 5,000 housing units. And so there's been roughly 2,500 constructed to date. And so we have 2,500 residents in that area. This is my terminology, excuse me, where it's a community within a community. And so first and foremost, it's building a park for residents that are currently living there and for future residents. As we go through this planning effort, I think part of the process and the public engagement is what type of amenities? Is it, yes, first and foremost for the residents living there, and then I think there will be a conversation about, is it a regional draw? I mean, certainly you're gonna have people visiting that area from light rail, coming from other cities to that area, so what type of regional type amenities? And so I think that'll be part of the planning process where it's parking, will people drive there? I think that is really good questions that we as a city need to answer as we go through that design phase.
Thank you. Yes, sir, are you going to do Corey?
Yes.
Okay, you can do it.
Thank you, Chair Ingram. So before we adjourn, and thank you again for adhering to a relatively short meeting. I know it's quick, but we do want to get out and be able to see some sites. But I would like to recognize one of our park board members is leaving, Corey Vitale. She's over there. She's served on the park board for 5 years. And she is, I hope it's okay if I say it, but she's moving out of the city. So she's not leaving because she has to or she, doesn't like us anymore. She's actually going to another community where she can commit her time and volunteerism to that community. So we appreciate all of your service and wish you luck. And this will be her last
Farmers
meeting.
Market.
Thanks. I mean, I could just say briefly, it's been a pleasure. It's been my honor to be on the park board. I moved here from Florida 8 years ago and by happy accident landed in Minnetonka, and I've been here ever since. So not only am I sad to be leaving the park board, but I'm sad to be leaving Minnetonka. It's been a wonderful place to live and to raise my kids. And while, my son will still be going to Minnetonka High School for 2 more years, unfortunately, we're having to move out of the area. But it's been great to be on the board. I've really enjoyed being able to participate in city government. I've learned a lot from natural resources and from the recreation department that I've been a part of. And, I just want to thank Kelly and Sarah and now Leslie and Matt for running the park board so smoothly. And I'll be watching from not far. I'm only going to Chanhassen. But, the skate park was the first big project that we started to work on when I joined the board, and I'm really looking forward to watching that come to fruition. So I'll be watching you guys, but just from a city next door. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that this is Mayor Wilson's last joint meeting, so we thank you for, the park board thanks you for being a leader and participating in the work that they do.
Well, thank you. It's, that's one of the hard parts about this is that I go to these meetings and, well, gee, this is the last time I'm going to be doing this. And so it makes it a bit poignant. And one, I really appreciate the work of the park board. We've got a great park system. And when I brag about Minnetonka, which I do quite a bit, the park system is really one of our just outstanding amenities that makes Minnetonka the outstanding place to live and visit that it is. So I appreciate all of the work. We've got a great staff. We've got a great team. I'm so honored to have had the opportunity to be mayor of Minnetonka, and it's going to be difficult to walk away, but also I think that I've been doing this for a long time, and there will be life after being mayor of Minnetonka. So, but very pleased to work with all of you. It's been an honor, and thank you for your service to the city.
So before we adjourn, I'd like to just give a little bit of detail on the tour part. That's the really exciting part of tonight. So we will, once we adjourn, we'll have a few minutes to grab your things. Feel free to use the restroom. We do have some beverages over here. The bus is outside waiting at the front door of the community center, so don't go to City Hall. It'll be right out here. And we'll be heading to Big Willow Park first. We'll get out, we'll look at the ball fields, and Matt and Kelly and Darren can talk about some of the work happening there in the master planning. We will then head down to Lone Lake Park and kind of take the long driveway down to the main parking lot and see the pickleball courts. There's some pollinator planting and some other amenities there we can take a look at. And then we'll head to the Glen Lake Park and talk a little bit about the planning that's happening there, the future skate park. And that's where we'll actually end. And then we'll head back to City Hall, actually Community Center after that. Unfortunately, it gets dark at 7:45 p.m. now, which is unfortunate, but we'll try to get through it, and hopefully you guys can see what we're talking about firsthand, ask questions. We have information we can share as well, and we hope you enjoy it. So with that, we can
Do we have a
adjourn.
motion?
So moved.
We don't have to do it, just all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.